G'day so-and-sos, welcome to our sewing room. My name's Kathy. My furry little gargoyle up there is Lucifer, and this is the bag that we're going to be making today. Now this bag is an all levels bag. I think beginners will be able to do it. There's no hardware on it and it goes together pretty easy. But if you're a more experienced sewer or bag maker, you're just going to be able to smash this out and have heaps of fun. And it doesn't look beginner level. I think this bag looks a little bit fancy and it's very, very cute. So it's a gusset style bag, meaning that we've got that nice wide gusset, and well, the only hardware, it's not really hardware, but we have just one snap at the top, which sort of pulls in those connected tabs and then pulls in the sides of our bag to give it that shape. Now, if you didn't have a connective snappy thing, rivet press, if you didn't have one of them or one of the handheld rivet presses, you could use a magnetic clasp, or instead of the connected tabs, you could just do a couple of ties or something like that, or just leave it off altogether if you didn't want to do it. So it's a little bit versatile in that way. Now it doesn't have any pockets on the inside, which is a little bit fun this week to have something a little bit easier. But when we make it, it self-creates these pockets. Trying to put my hand in there. It self-creates pockets on both sides, which is very cool and gives you somewhere just to slip your phone, you know, if you want to grab it nice and quickly. So the inside, it opens up really quite wide, so a good one to take out sort of shopping and whatever. So nice and wide, and we've got some bias tape in there. But given that the bag is so big and there's not a whole lot of hard interfacing, it's all soft interfacing if you want to use it at all, then the bias tape goes on pretty easily. And I suck at bias tape, so if I can do it, anyone can do it. Okay guys, well, I'm ready to get started, so let's get cracking. So let's look at what we need for today's project. So as always, I've got my cutting mat, acrylic ruler, scissors, a rotary cutter, some snippers underneath the cat. I've got some clips. If you don't have clips, you can make do with pins. I've got some snaps, if the cat doesn't eat them, which I'm gonna have to put in my pocket so she doesn't. If you don't have any snaps, or if you don't have a rivet press or anything like that, then I'll give you an alternative to the top part of our bag, that's fine. And then I've got a pen to draw a pattern, some chalk to just mark on my fabric. As always, my little purple thing, which is blue, which will help me at the sewing machine. If you don't have one, don't worry. I've got a CD or a DVD to cut out the corners. Make sure that you do find one and use it so that our corners are the same size, so then our gusset is the same size. I've got some bias tape, and then I've got some butcher's paper to draw up my pattern on. If you don't have a piece of paper big enough, then you can actually draw it up on the back of one of your pieces of interfacing or fabric. Okay, let's get started drawing up our pattern. Let's start drawing up our pattern piece. So the piece of paper that I'm using is 22 inches by 11 inches, and I've got it orientated long ways in front of me. I'm going to grab my little ruler, and up the top here, I'm going to place it at the 10.25 mark. So I'm 10.25 inches down, and then 2.5 inches over, like that. So I'm 2.5 across and 10.25 down, and give myself a line like that. Cool. Then from this top mark up here, I'm going to measure over 2.5 inches that way. Give myself a line there, and I'll grab my bigger ruler because I want to measure down 13 inches from there. So, and give myself a line like that. And then on this line, I'm just going to measure over to the edge. So I'm just going to line up that 13-inch line that I just did with one of the lines on my ruler so that I know that it's straight. And then I'll come across like that. And there we go. That's that bit. So then along this 13-inch line, I'm going to measure up 6 inches and give myself a mark there, just like that. So then with my CD, I'm going to place that down in the bottom corner and give myself a curve there. Same thing on this corner. Like that. And then up in this corner here. So I'm just lining it up so both sides of my line are being touched, like that. Cool. Now that's the important part. This means that our measurements for our gusset and everything else are going to be the same. So you'll have the same measurements as me. With this bit here, it doesn't matter if our curve is different, so don't worry too much about it. So I don't need the CD for that one. What I'm going to do is I want to sketch in from that line to my corner. So I'm just going to give myself a line to start off with, just so I can see it, because I'm hopeless at drawing. And then I'm just going to give myself a bit of a curve coming down here. And like I said, it doesn't matter if yours is different to mine. That part is okay to be different. Like that. And then what we're going to do is cut out that bit and cut out that bit and cut out our corner bits. And what we'll be left with is one I prepared earlier that Lucifer then had a bit of a chew on, the little bugger. So that's what our pattern piece will look like. Too easy. Let's have a look at our fabric. Let's have a look at our pattern pieces and our interfacing. Now, as always, this will be listed in the description box, so make sure you go there and you have a look and write it down or print it out, but we'll go over it here as well. Now, I'm using a suede for part of my outside, so I'm not interfacing that. If you're using all cotton woven, then go ahead and use a light fusible fleece or a light iron-on interfacing for all of your pieces. So let's have a look. So my connector tabs are 3 inches by 8 inches, and I have 2 of those. Now, if you don't have snaps, you won't need these if you don't want to use the snaps. Just use a tie of some sort, like that jersey knit stuff that comes in a roll that you can use as a tie, or some ribbon, or make yourself a little handle and use them and insert them the same, but we'll talk about that when we get to them. Okay, and then I have my 2 gusset pieces, and my gusset pieces are 31.5 inches by 7 inches. I have one for my lining piece, and I've used a light iron-on interfacing for that. And then I'm using suede for the outside one, so I'm not using interfacing because it's already got some weight. But like I said, if you're using a cotton woven, go ahead and use a light iron-on or a light fusible fleece. And then we've got our pattern pieces that we cut out. So I have 2 out of my suede, and like I said, no interfacing, and they are mirrored. And what that means is that I got my pattern piece on top of my suede, I cut one that way, and then I flipped my pattern piece over to cut the other piece out. So they're opposite, they're mirrored. So I have 2 suede ones, and then I have 2 of my pretty accent fabric, and they are interfaced with a light fusible fleece, and they're cotton woven. And I think this is an Ella Jewel fabric, and again, they are mirrored like that, aren't they, Lucy Purr? And then I have 4 out of my lining fabric, and again, light iron-on interfacing for those. And I have 2 one way and then 2 mirrored cut out the other way. And you're not going to get off them, are you? Okay, let's get started. I've got my outside pieces, I've got my lining pieces, some clips, a pen and a ruler. So what I'm going to do is grab one of my outside pieces, and it doesn't matter which one, so just go ahead and grab any. And I'm going to place it right sides together with one of the lining pieces. So find one that matches and line them up like that and whack some clips on. So I want to make sure that I'm clipping up around this curve, or pins, whatever you've got. So, but I'm not going to clip all the way up to the top because we're going to mark our top bit there. But I just want it all to stay in place for a minute. And please excuse the shocking job I did on my interfacing. My big press iron got a little bit too hot and got away from me. And this interfacing isn't the best one to work with anyway. But it does the job. And you can't see from the inside, so I can live with it. Okay, I'm going to grab my ruler, and from this top end, and it doesn't matter, we're going to mark both sides, so don't worry about what side you've got up. I'm going to measure down 3 inches and give myself a line like that. Flip him over. So if I've got it the other way at the sewing machine, then I'll remember, because otherwise I'll forget if I don't see it. And give myself a mark there as well at the 3 inches down from the top. And then I'll just whack a few more clips on to hold him together. And I will whack some more clips down the bottom, just like that. And then I'll do exactly the same thing to the other pieces. 1 lining and 1 exterior, remember?
Say what you wanna say to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning. Show me there's nothing fake to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning. Say what you wanna say to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning. Show me there's nothing fake to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning. Turn this room.
Okay, that looks good. And then measure down 3 inches from the top on this last one. Front and back, because I will forget. And then we're going to take this over to the sewing machine. And what we're going to do is sew down. We're going to start or stop at that line. We're not going to sew up these last 3 inches. We're leaving that open. We're just going to sew from that line around that curve, and from that line around that curve on all of our pieces, and that's it. We're not sewing down around the bottom, and we're not sewing up around that top 3 inches. Let's go do that. Okay, so I'm going to start up at one of my top corners, and I'm going to be 1/4 inch seam allowance. You can't be there because I will put a needle in your little paw, and that would suck. So 1/4 inch seam allowance, and my stitch length is around a 3 to 3.5. Make sure you backstitch. And like I said, we are just going to sew from that line down around our curves on both sides with our curves, like this side and that side. And I'm just going to do that to every single piece. Last little bit, backstitch, and that bit is done. So there's our pieces all done. Now what we need to do is turn these out. So we need to stick our fingers up in that bit and then just flip it out the other way. Sorry, Lucy Perry's on my chair and she's biting my bum. Naughty cat, she's in a mood. Don't bite me. So I'm going to work this out. Grab one of my little purple things. Now, as I do, I'm going to pop a few bags up on the screen that viewers have made. So Barbara sent me a photo of a beautiful bag that she made, and I love the print that she used. And it's of the bag that we made a few weeks ago that I made for the nurse that was on the air ambulance that care flighted me up to Sydney a few months ago. So I don't have it here to show you to compare it. But Barbara made it with this gorgeous cheetah fabric, and it goes to show how your fabric choice can change up the look of your bag so much. Like hers looks absolutely fantastic, and it looks so much different from mine, from the white fabric and sort of creamy coloured fabrics that I used. And I love her choice. It was very clever and she did a fantastic job. So yeah, Barbara did great and I love it. So that's how we change that one. Turn that one out, and I'll do all the rest of them now that the cat's gone. And then Donna sent me a photo of her bag as well. And Donna made the little pleated one that we made a few weeks ago. And it's her fabric choice is so much better than mine. The bright colours that she used just make it so summery and beautiful, and I love the sunflowers. And again, it just goes to show how your fabric choice can completely change up a bag, and how using things like, changing up the handles and using webbing instead of making your handles, or, not adding a pocket or adding another pocket, can completely change up the look of a bag. So that, if you're doing markets, and I've said this before, if you're doing markets or something like that, just using the same pattern, if you're familiar with one pattern over and over again, doing something like that, like just changing up the handles on a bag, can make it look like you've got 3 or 4 different styles of bag. So yeah, so great job guys, and absolutely love it when people send me in photos of the bags that they've made along with me. It gives me, I don't know, warm and fuzzies. I get a little bit shy too. So, but if you do want to send some of your bags in, I will pop my email up on the screen. I always do like it. I love getting the emails from you guys. And I also want to thank you all for all the entries into our competition that we're running to win this bag over here. It's going really, really well, and I really, really appreciate it. And I'm blown away by how many people have participated. It's very cool. And if you want a chance, we've still got another week or so to go on that competition. So if you want a chance to win that bag, make sure you subscribe and you go back and you look at that video that we put up, or I put up. I say we, I'm talking we's and me and the cat, that we put up a few weeks ago. So check that out for your chance to win. So I've got my iron heating up. Poke this last one out. Like that, and then we're just going to give them all a bit of a hit with the iron around those curves so that it's all laying nice and flat. And then we can take it back over to, oh no, hang on, what are we going to do next? Oh, I know what we're going to do next. Let's just get these ironed first. So I'm not going to iron my suede. I'm going to make sure with those pieces I iron it from the other side, from the lining side.
There's not much to do when all I can is thinking about you. Not doing well, don't know where you are, 'cause you're not here. It's been way too long. If I could lay down beside you, I would. When nothing really matters, that's all I wanna do. I hope that you are safe and that I will see you soon. If I can lay down beside you.
Okay, last little bit there. Get that iron down. Now we'll turn my iron off, pop that away, and then I have to go rescue Lucy Pear, who is now stuck up on top of the bookcase and can't get down. So I'll be back in a minute and we'll move on to the next bit. So that's my pieces turned out, ironed, and Lucy Perry is rescued. So what I'm going to do now is have one of my suede pieces, and it's right side up in front of me so I can see the suede and the lining is against the table. Grab one of my accent pieces. Now I want to make sure that I grab the correct accent piece, so the pretty fabric that I'm using. I'm grabbing the mirrored piece. So if we have a look at these two pieces, I've got the short curve of the suede one on this side and the short curve of my accent fabric on that side, so they're mirrored. I'm going to place them over the top of one another so it'll look like that. Now we're going to work on these handles. So I'm going to pick up just the outside pieces and I'm just going to fold that lining piece down out of the way for now. And I'm going to place my suede bit and the accent piece right side together. So pretty side to pretty side, like that. And then I will whack some clips on there, like that. Now, if you've done this before, you could go ahead and clip up your lining bit as well. But because I'm sort of doing this video for beginners, we're just going to do the outside bit. So I'm going to clip my other piece the same. So grab that and put them together like that. Now see, with both of my pieces, I'm laying my accent bit over my suede bit. If you wanted to, you could put them on opposite sides of your bag like that. But I just think this fabric is just so pretty that I want the fabric accent bit to be the bigger piece on both sides. So same thing, grab my outside pieces, fold my lining pieces down out of the way, place them right sides together and whack some clips on there, like that. And we'll take that over to the sewing machine and just stitch down along there on both pieces at 1/4 inch. So just make sure that both of your lining pieces are folded down and out of the way and you're not sewing over them. And about 1/4 inch seam allowance. And just sew across the top like that. Now what we're going to do is take our lining pieces and place them right sides together. So it's going to be twisted. Just make sure you've got them both going the same side. It's going to be twisted and it's going to look a bit funny, but it's right. It will go together. So just make sure they're right sides together. So pretty side to pretty side. And I'll whack some clips on there to hold it. And then I can do the same thing to that. And then the other piece. Cool. So there's our handles sewn down. Now take the clips off and all I'm going to do is just give it a bit of a pull and then everything is going to sit into place where it's meant to. So like I said, it looks messy and looks funny, but it'll all sit into place. So then I've got my iron heating up and what I'm going to do is just fold in that bit that we just worked on. Open up those seams if you can. Give that a little bit of a roll. Or if you're not using, sorry, can't lose my voice. If you're using all cotton woven, you'll be able to just give that a bit of a hit with the iron. but I'll just give that a bit of a press open, that bit, and then iron it from my lining side. So that seam lays a little bit flatter, like that. And then I'll fold in these sides so that they sit even with the rest of that seam. And it should just sort of pop into place for you, like that. And once I've got that done, whack some clips on to hold it in place. And I'll just do the rest of them like that as well. So I told you guys a few weeks ago that I was starting adult swimming lessons when we made our shoe bag, because I was making that to go to the pool, to take to the pool. We went and had our first lesson last week, and it was so much fun. There was other people too. I was a little bit worried that we were going to be the only ones there, but splashing up and down the pool with my little kickboard. And it was heaps of fun. But something that happened afterwards is what I want to tell you guys about. So we're walking out of the pool, looking like a drowned rat. And this lady and her teenage daughter walked up to me, and they must have been in there at the same time. And this woman said to me, "Oh, did you guys just have swimming lessons?" And she sounded like so surprised and like a little bit, I don't know, not negative, but I don't know, it was a little bit weird. And I was like, yep, never learnt how to swim properly, and it's been years since I've been in the water, so we thought it would be fun. And she's like, oh, that's good. I'm like, you sure? But it just made me think, and I started to justify myself, which is, a little bit unlike me as well. But I started to explain myself, going, I've just had back surgery, and it'd be good for me to get in the water and learn how to swim and exercise, safely without hurting myself. And she's like, oh, that's really good. And I stopped and I said to her, you know what, like, you're never too old to learn something new. If you decide that you are suddenly too old to learn something new, like swimming, because swimming is generally something that we learn to do as a kid. So you don't see many adults. I mean, there's 4 people in our class. You don't see many adults doing swimming lessons, I guess. And I think it's because of the whole, I'm too old to do swimming lessons. And it's like, why? So I said to her, you're never too old to learn something new. I said, if you decide that you're too old to stop learning, you're never, ever going to learn anything new again. And that would suck. Like, imagine if you whatever age you are, and I turned 50 a few weeks ago. So, and I'm, pretty happy about it that, I've made it that far and all that type of thing. The lucky ones get older. But if you decide that you are too old to learn something new, whether it be swimming or sewing or anything else, you are never going to learn anything new again in your whole life. And how sucky is that? Like, how boring. You can always learn something new. There is always something new to learn, no matter how old you are or your capabilities or, your finances or anything like that. There is always something that you can learn from someone else. So keep that in mind. You are never too old, and I am really enjoying swimming lessons, and I'm just really enjoying my back feeling so much better. So I'm going to start a whole heap of new things. I keep looking at stuff that pops up on Facebook in my area, and I'm saying to Adrian, we're going salsa. We're doing salsa lessons. And he's like, not yet. I've got a little bit more healing to do before I do that. But I used to love skating as well. I used to play derby, and I was the jammer for my team, and I love skating, and I can't wait to get back on skates. But yeah, that'll take a while because I don't want to mess up all the good work my surgeon did. Okay, now what we're going to do is take this back over to the sewing machine, and we're going to top stitch those curves. So we're going to start down here, or the other side, doesn't matter. And we are going to top stitch up. We're going to top stitch over our handle bit down that side, and then same thing on the other side that we've already sewn. Top stitch up around here and down around that curve. And we're still not worrying about our nice big curves yet. I'm going to leave them alone for now. let's go do that. Okay, I'm top stitching, so I want to be at around 1/8 of an inch. So I've got the side of my foot lined up pretty much with the side of my fabric. And this is a zipper foot, or a 1/8 foot if you're wondering. And it's blue because it's Teflon. It's a plastic, which means that it's going to move over this vinyl or this suede a little bit easier for me, but they're really good for vinyl as well. So I'm going to lengthen my stitch length to around 4.5 because we're top stitching. And I'm just starting on one of those curves, little back stitch, and just try and stay nice and consistent with my seam allowance all the way around. So that's one done. I'll do the other one exactly the same.
Right there on top of the moon, we could sit and do nothing. I wish we were bold to just fly away. I don't wanna care, just be here and I'm good alone. I'll be okay, miss you like an old friend. Too scared now, thinking I should call up.
So if you're having a little bit of trouble with the curves, then see how as I come down around this curve, I'm putting my hand on my fabric. I'm not pushing, I'm not pulling from up here. I've just got my hand on it, and what I'm going to do is just turn it a little bit like that as I go around my curve, and also use my stiletto to help guide the fabric. And it's all just practice. The more you practice, the better you'll get. And I'll stop every now and again, readjust if I need to, and just guide that fabric around. Little back stitch there, and that bit is done. So we've got our pieces all top stitched down. Now what I'm going to do is lay them out in front of me. So like I said, I'm going to have my suede underneath and my pretty piece on top. But you do it however you want to do it. And then I'll lay them one over the top, line them up, and whack some clips all along that bottom edge. That's Lucy Purr, if you can hear that noise. She's got the zoomies. Got the zoomies and it's on like Donkey Kong. She's going nuts. Poor Tron Cat wanted to come in. She come to the door meowing because Tron Cat's allowed outside and Lucy Purr's not allowed outside. So Tron Cat come to the door and looked at me like, can I come in? And nah, they'll just drive me nuts with the both of them. Okay, so that's one, and then the other one, same thing, just lay it neatly on top of each other, line up those curves, flatten it out and whack some clips on there, like that. And then we'll take that over to the sewing machine, and what we're going to do is just baste down around the edges to hold all those pieces together. So basting, in case you haven't heard that before, is just a form of, it's usually done by hand, like if you're tailoring clothes and you do it by hand, but we're not doing it by hand. It just means that you sew two pieces together to hold them in place until more stitches are done later on. So we're just going to baste down really close to the edge of these pieces just to hold them in place. So I'll show you at the sewing machine, but I'm going to pop them to the side for a minute, grab my connectors and a pen and a ruler. Now, because I'm using suede, I'm also going to use double-sided sticky tape. So if you're using suede or vinyl and you've got some tape around, it does come in handy. If you don't have any, don't worry about it. You can just use clips. So I'm going to measure up from the bottom long edge of the back of one of my connectors. So I've got it wrong side up, so the back of it is facing me, and give myself a line. So I'm just drawing a line smack down the middle. So 1.5 inches up, give myself a line, and then I'll grab my tape. So if you're using cotton woven, you won't need any tape. Like clips and an iron, if you want to iron it in place, will be fine. But this tape is just going to help me hold it in place while I take it over to the sewing machine and sew it. So it just does make life a little bit easier if you're using suede or vinyl. So lay that tape right down the middle on top of that line, and then I'll take the backing off. So yeah, Lucy Pear really wants to go outside. She can see some birds. There's birds. But she's not an outside kitty cat. So yeah, besides the fact that I think she would wipe out an entire native species on her own within a day, which we don't want. She has, although she's so much better, if you're familiar with Lucy Pear, she's so much better. She has some neurological stuff going on. So hang on. Let's just fold this up into the middle. So I'm going to take that long edge. I'm going to start in the middle and just fold that up to that center line and press that down. So if you're using cotton woven, this is where you just iron that edge down into place. And then the other side as well. And then the other piece. So yeah, Lucy Pear, when I got her as a kitten, she could barely walk in a straight line. You'd put her on the floor and she'd just go sideways across the room until she fell over. So she had some neurological stuff, and the vet wasn't sure if it was like an injury, like a brain injury, or if she'd had a brain parasite when she was young. But yeah, like with lots of physical therapy that I do with her, I make her run on a treadmill like a little hamster. And some other stuff that we've been doing with her, she's gotten so much better. Well, I don't know if it's what we've been doing with her or if it's something that she's outgrown or something that's healed, but either way, she is much better and she is a little terror. Okay, so that's those. So when we take these over to the sewing machine, we'll take it over at the same time as our pieces. We're just going to top stitch down on the right side. So this side without the fold is the right side. We're just going to top stitch down those side pieces. Let's go do that. Let's start with these connected tabs. So my stitch length is nice and long. It's around 4.5 because we're top stitching. And give myself a little back stitch. And line up the side of my foot with the side of that fabric. So I'm 1/8 of an inch. And just sew down these sides like that. Now the reason that we lengthen our stitch length when we're top stitching is because we want it to look pretty, and with the longer stitch on the top of the fabric, it does look nicer if your stitch length is a little bit longer, and it also stops it from pulling too tight and so the piece curling a little bit because the tension is too tight as well. So yeah, nice long stitch length when you're top stitching. And we want to start like I just did up the same end. When we're doing a narrow piece like this, like a connector tab or a strap or something like that, we want to start up the same end, especially when we're using vinyl. So if I start up this end, then I don't want to zip across the bottom and come back up the other side, because it could cause my strap or connector tab or handle to have a twist in it, or more of a twist than would otherwise sort of happen. So down this side, little back stitch, pull that away, and then start up that same end. Little back stitch. And down we go. And then those guys are ready. But like I said, if you don't have snaps, then yeah, use a tie or bit of webbing or something else, but it'll go into the gusset the same, and I'll show you in a minute how we do that bit. Okay, let's pop them to the side and then grab our bag pieces. So I'm just going to start where they join up. So my two sides join up here. I'm just going to pop my foot down there. So again, I'm nice and close to the edge. I'm 1/8. And if you don't happen to catch it all the way around, if you get around here and you find that, it hasn't quite caught it here or something, don't worry too much about it, because we're going to sew the gusset on and it'll all be attached again there. So we want to be nice and close to the edge when we do this, so that these stitches don't show through when we do our gusset. Probably not that close to the edge, Catherine Ann. It's a bit thick, so it's moving. Ugh, bugger. So I can feel it's a little bit thick, so I'm not catching all of it. So I might need to go in a little bit, because I'm falling off because I'm just on one piece of fabric. But if that was like top stitching or something like that, I would unpick that because it's messy and do it again. But this is all going to be caught up in the seam allowance of the gusset. So I'm not going to worry about it too much, because I just want these pieces to hold together. So I'm just going to work my way around like this, back up the other side, and then I'll do the other bit exactly the same, except hopefully I'll stay on it a bit better.
Right there on top of the moon, we could sit and do nothing. I wish we were bold to just fly away. I don't wanna care, just be here and I'm good alone. I'll be okay, miss you like an old friend. Too scared now.
This is a really good example of why we don't want to put our fingers anywhere near that needle. I don't know if you can see, I'll try and zoom in a little bit. My foot shifted to the side a little bit when I missed the fabric over there, and my needle come down and hit the side of that foot. Now this foot is solid plastic, but it's gone right through and chewed a hole in there. So my machine's a domestic, so it's got more punch power. But even with my machine's industrial, but even with a domestic machine, the needle still has a lot of punch power. So we want to make sure we keep our fingers away. So I will change out that foot. So I've got my two gusset pieces and my two connectors. I'm going to take my connector, and that's the folded over side, fold it in half so those raw edges are hidden, and whack a clip on there. And then same with the other one, just fold it in half so those short ends are together like that. Then I'll grab my exterior gusset piece, and I'm going to fold it in half up here at the top and just find my center. So I just want to find the center and give myself the tiniest little snip there and here. Little snip. She's all tuckered out now. She went nuts for a few minutes, wore herself out, thankfully. It's nap time. Okay, grab my connector, and I'm going to place it at that center snip up on that end. So the connector is overhanging the gusset bit. It's not up that way, it's overhanging the gusset. And it's laying over that center snip, and I've got it overhanging about 1/4 inch. And then I'll just move that clip and put another clip on there. Don't want it to pull. Okay, and then same at this end. Pop that on, overhanging about 1/4 inch. We don't want it right at the edge. Shift that clip, grab another clip, like that. Cool. Then I'll grab my lining piece, and we're going to lay them right sides together, so pretty side to pretty side. So my yellow is going to be against the suede, like that. And line up that edge and then I'll whack some clips along that top edge. Over the top of that connector, there and there. And then I'm just going to shift those clips. I'm going to hold it all together, shift those clips to include that lining piece. And then smooth it out like that. And then same thing at this end. I'll whack a couple of extra clips on there first, like that, to hold it. And then I'll shift these clips to include the lining as well, like that. And then we'll take that over to the sewing machine and we're just going to sew down along those clipped edges. I've shortened my stitch length to around a 3.5 and I've got rid of that foot that had the holes in it. So see how it's got that mark in it there? Now if I could still use that if I wanted to, but that sharp little bit has the potential to be catching my thread and breaking it, and that will drive me nuts. And I've got plenty more of them, so I don't need to worry about it. So I'm at about a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I'm just going to sew across this side. Cool, now we're going to stay here because, so we're going to flip it out, just turn it all out. So now the right side of our fabrics are showing. Like that. Very good. Now, if you're using cotton woven, you could go back over and give that a bit of a hit with the iron up the top there. But I really don't want to do it with the suede. So we're just going to top stitch along both of these top edges. So I'm top stitching, so I'll lengthen my stitch length back up to 4.5. And I want to be 1/8 inch or so. So nice and close to the edge. Back stitch. And when we get up to this connector tab, if you need to use your hump jump, then go ahead. But you should be able to feel that we're going over that extra 1/4 inch that we left there. And all the way over. I think I need to change my needle. My machine doesn't sound happy. Okay, fresh needle, see how we go. So that's another good lesson, I guess, which I won't edit out. If your machine does start making a thunking noise or just sounds a little bit funny, like it sounds a bit unusual than what it usually does, that's a good indication that there's a problem with your needle. So I probably blunted it a little bit when I hit my foot and it didn't like that. So it's a good idea to change it out. Cool bananas. Okay, let's take that back over to the table. Hopefully that's my machine sorted and a little bit happier. So there's our gusset piece done. So now I've got my 2 pieces and my gusset piece. Pop one to the side and I'm going to have one right side up in front of me, and I'm going to fold my gusset in half and find my centers along these sides. Grab my scissors. So again, just give myself the tiniest little snip of my fabric at where I think my centers are. And then the same thing with this piece. I'm going to fold it in half along this bottom, so those bottom curves are matched up, and give myself just a tiny cut. Now, if you want to, just use some chalk or something to mark it if you're a little bit too hesitant to cut it, that's fine. Just as long as you're marking your centers. But I can see that there. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is have my main piece right side up, grab my gusset, and place them right sides together. So that means that my exterior is matching with my exterior. And my gusset is laying over my piece, it's not below it. And I'm going to line up those center snips and whack some clips on there. Just along that bottom bit there. Just whack 2 or 3 along there. Cool. Now, scary bit. This is worthwhile doing. I've grabbed some better scissors. It's worthwhile doing because it'll help our gusset line up around our curve. And what we're going to do is snip into just the gusset piece, not the main piece. I've just got the gusset piece in my hand. So I can see where my gusset is going to go around the curve. So from around there to there. So what I'm going to do is just snip up just a little bit, just about 1/8 of an inch, and around the same distance apart. And this will be caught up in our seam allowance, so you're not going to see this. So you don't want to go too far, because if you go too far, then you will. Like that. And then on this side as well, so I've just got my gusset, both sides of my gusset, just not my bag piece. And clip up along there. Just where I think it's going to go up around that curve. And then I'll flip it around and do this side of the gusset as well. So I can see that I've started about there. So clip up along there as well. Like that. Now I could hear my machine didn't sound happy, like that noise. You just get to know your machine. And when you get to know your machine, once you start hearing any sort of noises as you're stitching, it's usually a needle problem. So if you're getting skipped stitches, or if your tension just all of a sudden goes funny and you haven't touched anything, or you hear that noise, change out your needle as your first point of call. Okay, good lesson. Now we can start working that up. So what I'm going to do is take the top end of my gusset, line it up with the top of the bag there, and whack a clip on there, because we really want that bit to line up. We want that to look good. So I'll whack one up along the top and there, and then start clipping down the side, making sure that's all lined up. And then when we get around to this bottom curve, we just sort of have to wiggle it and maneuver it and coax it to sit nicely. But this bag is a really good introduction to doing gussets because it's soft. It's not, there's no really hard interfacing in it. So where's that other one? Oh, I don't have it out. The Erica Bowler, which a few people have asked me to do, which I'm thinking about doing a tutorial on. It's quite firm. It's got like a lot of hard interfacing in it. So when we do this bit, it's a little bit harder to ease it in to get it to fit together. But this one is nice and soft. So it's a little bit easier to get to sit. So I'm just, see how like when I open it up, those cuts are sort of splitting open and allows that fabric to sit a little bit flatter and to join up a little bit neater. Oh, it's broken. Throw it away. Magic cleaning fairy will get that later. I do have one of them. He's got OCD. So I'm not grinning because he's got OCD. I'm grinning because he comes in and cleans up my sewing room because he can't stand the thought of it being messy. So whack some more clips along there. And then this side, so same thing. Gonna take that top edge, fold it up, meet that other edge, and clip them together like that. If I'm gonna live with someone with OCD, I might as well take advantage of it. He loves cleaning. He does. I'm not doing it to drive him nuts. He loves cleaning. He vacuums like twice a day, the entire house twice a day, and then we'll come out here and vacuum everything in here as well after I'm done for the day. So it's good, but it drives me nuts too, between him and the cat and Clip. But I'm sure I drive them nuts too, so that's all right. We're all mad here. Okay, get those in. And then we're going to take this over to the sewing machine and we're going to sew all along that clipped edge at around 1/4 of an inch. And this time we do want to make sure that we are catching those edges. If you miss a tiny little bit, it's not too bad because we're going to add the bias tape over the top of it as well. But you do want to practice just, getting both those edges. So if you miss a little bit, just go back and do it again, because it's a little bit more forgiving with our stitches because that bias tape is going to go over the top, so you're not going to see it. But I will change out my thread to a yellow before I do this bit. Cool. Okay, that's what it should look like. Let's go sew that bit down. So I'm going to be at around 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch. It's probably a little bit wide there. And I'm just going to carefully work my way around, back stitch. And the same thing as what I said before, just having my hand on my fabric and helping me move the whole thing around without pushing or pulling. And when I get up to these bits, I can just shift I'll show you. So I don't get a big pucker. See how that bit's laying over there? If I keep going, I'm going to get a big pucker. So what I'm going to do is just sort of pick that piece up and move it a little bit and smooth that out. And then do a couple of stitches. Stop. Lift my foot up so I can move my fabric out of the way. Move that fabric back over there. And then keep going around. And then we're coming up to another big pucker, this bit here. Lift my foot up, smooth that out as best I can, move that fabric, move that clip, foot back down, and then around. So I'm lucky in that I've got the industrial machine, so I've got a knee lift, so I'm using my knee to lift my foot so I can use both hands. But if you don't have that, then just lift it up, shift your fabric around, and just make sure that you're leaving your needle in your work when you're doing that, so that your needle holds your work in place as you shift it all around. And I'll just work all my way around doing that same thing. Cool. Okay, before I go back to the table, I'll flip it over. Just make sure that I caught both sides of the fabric all the way around. And if I missed anywhere, I'll fix it, but looking pretty good. I might just unpick that bit there a little bit because I did get a pucker there on the other side, and just smooth that out a little bit, but you don't need to watch me do that. We'll see you back over at the table. So there's one part of our gusset on. Now we need to attach the other. So I'm going to grab this piece, fold it in half along the bottom like we did with the other one, and mark my center. And again, either snip or use a bit of chalk or something. Oh, bang. Okay, now I'm going to have this piece that we've put the gusset on laying right side up in front of me so my gusset's open. Grab my other piece and place them right sides together. So my exterior is against my exterior, and I can see the lining of that piece and the lining of my gusset. Line up those center snips along the bottom. Whack some clips on there. And then same thing, I'm going to match up those top ends. So I make sure that they line up, these top corners. Nice and neat. Like that. And then the other side as well. So if you've got a few puckers, like I got that pucker, don't worry too much about it. With gussets and doing this sort of bag, you're going to get a little bit of puckering, and a little bit's okay. If it's a bit more obvious like that one that I had, then I'd suggest undoing a few stitches and trying to smooth that out a little bit. But a little bit's okay, it's inevitable. You're not going for perfect, because it's just not going to happen. And then we've got the bias tape that goes over the top as well. So don't drive yourself nuts. Make it neat, but don't drive yourself nuts. Okay, so same thing. I'm just going to clip all the way around. And then once I've got that done, we'll take it over to the machine. And I'm being quiet so I don't wake up the cat. Okay, that looks good. All right, so we'll take that back over and sew that down, but I'll do a little reminder to myself to put it up on the screen that if you are struggling with clipping your edges together, that you can actually use a stapler. So if you've got like a good sort of heavy duty office stapler, you can go around and whack some staples in, and that will hold it, and you don't have the risk of it all shifting and coming loose. The problem with that is that it can be a little bit harder to adjust over at the sewing machine, and you have to remove your staples afterwards and be careful not to hit them with your needle. But for beginners, if you're really struggling to get it to all hold in place, then that is something that you can do. And it's something that I do if I do like a really heavy bag, like the other one I was talking about, the bowler bag. I'll whack some staples in there to help hold it in place as I go. So that's something to think about, and I'll remember to pop that up on the screen. Okay, let's go do this bit. So have a feel and see which way feels easier for you. You can either have it so you've got your lining side up, or flipped over that way so you've got the gusset side up as you sew. I'm going to go lining side up because that is how I clipped it. So I'm going to make sure that I smooth everything else underneath, so I'm not sewing over anything that I don't want to sew over. Get that all set up, and my stitch length should be around 3.5. And again, about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. And just work my way around the same as what we did a minute ago.
Right there on top of the moon, we could sit and do nothing. I wish we were bold to just fly away. I don't wanna care, just be here and I'm good alone. I'll be okay, miss you like an old friend. Too scared now, thinking I should call up all night.
And back stitch. And we're done with that bit. Now I've got my bag, my bias tape and my clips. So we're going to start clipping this on. So when I do this, I want to make sure that I have a little bit of overhang at the edge. And what I'm going to do is open up one side and lay it even with the edge of my seam there with my bag, like that. And I'm going to start whacking some clips on. So I've got around 3/8 of an inch or so overhanging this top edge, and start whacking some clips on. Now, like I said, I suck at doing bias tape like this. I really, yeah, I still enjoy it. I still enjoy doing it. It's just that, you know, because I'm not that great at it, I don't tend to do it a whole lot, which is a catch-22 because then I don't get to practice. So I really should do more where I have to do this a little bit more. But I'm just going to clip like this all the way around. So make sure that, see how I've got the tape so it's sitting over my bag, it's not hanging off the edge. So make sure that you've got it the right way and that you are clipping it all around. And I'll put up the size and width and everything of the tape that I'm using at the beginning as well as the length that you'll need. So again, that's a little reminder to myself to do that. And pin around or clip around this curve and just work all the way around really carefully like this until I get to the top edge, and I'll leave that sort of 3/8 of an inch again overhang, and then I'll cut that free and then do the other side as well.
Say what you wanna say to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning. Show me there's nothing fake to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning. Say what you wanna say to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning. Show me there's nothing fake to me.
Okay, last couple, and there. And again, cut it that little bit longer, like that. So what I'm going to do with that bit is I'm just going to fold that over so that is right at the edge, and whack a clip on there. And then do that at this corner as well. I just wanted to get it all laying flat first and getting it where I wanted it before I folded it over, so that if I needed to adjust it, I could. There, and then this side as well. Fold that over, making sure that the edge of the tape lines up with the edge of the bag. There, and then this one. There. Cool. There and there. Okay. Now we're going to take this over to the sewing machine, and when we stitch this down, we stitch it down in 2 steps. So the first step, we're going to stitch along in this crease, and we're just going to go all the way around, and we'll do both sides, and then we'll bring it back to the table, and then once we've done that, we'll fold that over and clip it again, just so we're being super careful. Okay, let's go do that bit. Okay, because I didn't have any yellow bias tape and I'm using pink, I've swapped out to a pink thread. So think about that when you're choosing your thread, making sure that everything else is tucked down out of the way to the side, needle down, stitch length is around 3.5, and like I said, I'm just going to aim to stay in that crease of the tape as I go around. So otherwise about 1/4 of an inch or so. And just work my way really carefully all the way around.
Right there on top of the moon, we could sit and do nothing. I wish we were bold to just fly away. I don't wanna care, just be here and I'm good alone. I'll be okay, miss you like an old friend. Too scared now, thinking I should call up all night. I think it's hard how we always wait another day.
Last clip there, holding that tape down. Don't use your fingers. And back stitch. Cool, let's take it over and clip up the other bit. So that's the first part of our tape done. Now what we're going to do is fold that tape over to the other side so it covers that entire raw edge, and start putting some clips on there. So just flip it over. Yes, Lucy Purr. And clips. And just work my way all the way around, just doing that. And it should just flip over nicely and sort of sit where you want it to sit anyway. And we'll just do both sides like that and get our clips on. Okay, last one. Tie that bit up there. It's a good thing she's cute, man. Okay, let's go back over to the sewing machine. So if we have a look, this here is the side that was sewn down and flipped over, and this is the side that isn't yet sewn down. So I want to be working on this side, so I'm making sure that I'm catching all of it as I go. And if there's any quilters out there that want to correct me or give me any sort of advice or anything that they think I could do better, then I'm more than open to that, because quilters do this all the time and I don't. And like I said earlier, there is always something you can learn from someone else. So I want to be around 1/8 of an inch from the edge of that tape, and my stitch length is going to be around a 4, and I'm just going to very carefully work all my way around with a little back stitch there, and just take it nice and easy and slow, and making sure that I'm using my stiletto and I'm not getting my fingers anywhere near that needle. And I put my clips up the wrong way, so they're going to be a pain to move. Last little bit and back stitch. Okay, let's go have a look at this. Okay, so I have my bag and my rivet presses. Now I've already gone ahead and punched a hole in that one because I had a little camera malfunction, but I just wanted to punch, because I'm using suede and it's too thick, I want to just punch a hole through the bottom. So this bottom piece, opened it up, placed it in there and punched my hole. Then I'll pop my snap through there and into there, so that the flat side of my snap is on the inside of my connector tab. Oh, got to put the bloody die in there, Kathy. Silly. So I've put the other end of the snap onto that die, screw it in, and give myself a press so that the bottom of my snap, the snappy bit, is on the outside, the bottom of that piece. Then grab my other connector tab and have a little think about it. So if I want it to close like that, I want to have my other snappy piece on the top. So I'll measure around 1/2 inch down from this top, open that up, pop it under and punch a hole in him. There we go. Getting there. And then, so I want that bit and that bit. So I want the flat side to come up from underneath like that. And then I'll pop the other die in with my other snappy bit. Whack him on. Cool. And then they will snap together and hold a bag in place. Let's get rid of these and have a look at that. So there we go, there she is all finished, and I love how that looks. That is very cute, isn't it, Lucy Purr? Did you have fun today? Yeah, I think she did. I had fun today making that along with you, and I hope that you did too. And as always, if you did make it along with me, then feel free to send me some pics of your completed project, because I really enjoy that. And until next time, remember peeps, it's only fabric. We can always buy more, and we can always learn something new as well. Okay guys, see you next week. Bye. Bugger.